Morning, everybody. How is everybody doing? We're in Exodus 15. Exodus is going a lot faster than Genesis did. Genesis had all the begats, and this guy had a kid, and this guy had a kid. And Exodus 15, we're going to start about verse 12, probably. So we'll go and see what happens. Happy Mother's Day to everybody. Are we ready? Let's just start right there. Then Miriam the prophet, Aaron's sister, took a tambourine and led all the women as they played their tambourines and danced. And Miriam sang this song, "Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. He has hurled both horse and rider into the sea." Then Moses led the people of Israel away from the Red Sea, and they moved out into the desert of Shur. That's right. They traveled in the desert for 3 days without, listen, here we go. Here's where it all starts getting good. Well, it's been good, but it's really getting good now. They traveled into the desert for 3 days without water or finding any water. When they came to the oasis of Marah, the water was too bitter to drink. So they called the place Marah, which means bitter. Then the people complained and turned against Moses. "What are we going to drink?" they demanded. So Moses cried out to the Lord for help, and the Lord showed him a piece of wood. Moses threw into the water. This made the water good to drink. It was there at Marah that the Lord set before him, or them, the following decree as a standard to test their faithfulness to him. He said, "If you'll listen carefully to the voice of the Lord your God and do what's right in his sight, obeying his commands and keeping all his decrees, then I will not make you suffer any diseases I sent upon the Egyptians. For I am the Lord who heals you." What's this? Let me tell you, stop right here for a second. Here's this kind of how this goes. You've got people that have been in slavery in the system, the world system, the slavery system, for 430 years. All right, they were in. I mean, that's if you have 40 years as a generation, that's a lot of. That's 10 and a half generations, almost 11 generations. So they got used to living in a slavery mindset. A slavery mindset is when you might be working every day, living every day, functioning every day, but the problem is you become entitled or dependent upon the system that you're serving. Okay, you become entitled. So, for example, when your Pharaoh's your president, your government, and you're working, building cities for Pharaoh, working hard, but you realize, hey, I'm working hard for you, so I should be entitled to something. Well, Pharaoh did take care of them, gave them money, gave them houses, gave them jobs, and provided an opportunity, but they became so dependent upon him that when Moses comes in as a new leader and says, look, we're coming out of this system, and I'm going to bring you out to freedom. They come out of Egypt from an entitlement mindset of dependency upon the government. Now they're coming to a place where Moses is bringing them out of Egypt, brings them to the Red Sea, and their tendency is the first time they don't get their needs met, the first time they get frustrated at what they think it should happen, they'll turn on you. They'll bite the hand that feeds them. Good example. They get to the Red Sea, they can't cross. Now the people are mad at Moses. Look what you've done. It was easier for us to stay there. Why? Because at least we had our needs met. I wasn't faced with this. They're looking for comfort rather than looking for movement or promotion or freedom. They would rather trade their freedom and their opportunity for freedom for comfort and less problems and challenges, tests. Okay? So you bring them out of Egypt, out of the world. You bring them in to the Red Sea. The first time they see, it's not my fault, they're always looking to blame somebody else. You see their attitude? They're looking for him. So, well, Moses, you brought us this far. Now look, we can't go anywhere. Moses said, stand still and you see the salvation of the Lord. Then he goes and cries to God, and God says, I didn't tell you to stand still. I said, you go. And then God opens up the Red Sea. They come across. Now, they've just seen the hand of the Lord. Miriam is dancing with her tambourine. God has blessed them. They've witnessed one of the greatest miracles in the world, that their enemy that they had been under for the last 430 years is gone, dead, and now they're walking into a new territory they've never been before, and they haven't had water for 3 days. And now they're mad, and who do they get mad at? They start chiding Moses. They're getting mad at Moses because Moses, it was easier for us to stay back in Egypt. Now that you brought me out of here, and now I'm here, we don't have water. At least we had water in Egypt. See, when you come out of the world system and somebody leads you out and you finally get your heart saved, you're ready to go. Now God's got you on a journey. You connect in with a body of believers that are on also the same journey. The first time you think somebody owes you something and it don't happen, we start bringing the old world way and getting mad at the people because, well, at least we had our needs met over there. And we start looking for someone to blame. I see it happen sometimes, not with you guys, obviously, but with Lifehouse. People come out of they'll be out here in drugs, bad in the world. They come out, get saved, get out from underneath the addiction. They're not really where they need to be, but they're in their journey to get there. And the first time something don't go their way, they get mad at Rocky and everybody else in the house. Am I not telling the truth? Amen. It's his fault, and they'll point out all his flaws, just like they did Moses. And he does have flaws. Moses has flaws, and let me take it a step further. We won't just talk about the Lifehouse or the newness of life right now. Let's talk about the church. Somebody gets saved, they come into the church, and then after about 6 or 8 weeks, things aren't happening like they think they ought to happen. They start getting mad at the preacher. Because the preacher's supposed to provide something for them that they couldn't provide for themselves. No, listen. When you come out, you're coming out of bondage into a place of freedom where you're responsible for you. Amen. You can blame everybody else if you want to, but the ultimate comes down to you. You can be a victim if you want to, but ultimately it comes down to you. That's right. Amen. And the whole idea of this journey is for them to learn how to live in freedom responsibly. That's the whole kingdom journey. How much freedom can you live in without having to have something to be underneath? Can you truly live in freedom? Can you get to the place where you can actually have a drink? Let's just go there. But you choose not to. Amen. Amen. You can watch that on the internet, but you choose not to. You can choose to talk like that, but you just choose not to. See what happens? It's the place where it has nothing in you. But as long as you're not free from it, you're going to blame everybody else for your discomfort. And that's what they did with Moses. Moses, where's the water? Moses goes to God, and God says, here's the deal. Now, this is a picture of the cross. God shows him a tree. He takes the tree in the water, the same water that was bitter, is now good to drink. The world is bitter, but through the cross, the world is ours. The kingdoms of this world are the kingdoms of our God. If it's not seen through the cross, the kingdom of this world will kill you. Through the cross, they belong to you. Money seen through without the cross will kill you because you'll serve it. Money seen through the cross will work for you because it's a tool. The cross makes the bitter things sweet. Make sense? The curse can be a blessing through the cross. It's just, what do you see it through? Yeah. He said, if you listen carefully to the voice of the Lord your God and do what is right in the sight, obeying his commands and keeping all his decrees, then I will not make you suffer any of the diseases I sent on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you. After leaving Marah, the Israelites traveled unto the oasis of Elim, where they found 12 springs and 70 palm trees. Now look at this. We don't have palm trees around here. Sometimes I have visions of palm trees. They camped there beside think about it. There's palm trees and springs. This is a beautiful area. They camped there beside the water. Then the whole community of Israel set out from Elim and journeyed into the wilderness of Sin. It says that's a place. Between Elim and Mount Sinai. But look at this now. Between the water, palm trees, and Sinai, which is the Mount of God, remember? Between that is where they are. They're between places. They arrived there on the 15th day of the second month, 1 month after leaving the land of Egypt. They're 1 month into this journey. They've been saved 1 month. There too, the whole community of Israel complained about Moses and Aaron. Here they are murmuring again. Here's a guy that brings you out of your mess, and you mad at him? See what happens? Moses was a trailblazer. You'd still be in your mess if it wasn't for Moses. You'd still be crying out to God. There too, the whole community of Israel complained about Moses. Not only Moses, but Aaron, because Aaron spoke for Moses. If only the Lord had killed us back in Egypt. Here they go. They moan. They were sat around pots filled with meat and ate all the bread we wanted. Listen to this. They're now looking back. Listen, in the world, at least you had money. When I was out there, at least I wasn't confined. Right? At least I didn't have to deal with this. At least you start comparing where you are when you're in transition to how it used to be. And the old way looks a little bit better than the way you are right now. Right? Because back then you could hustle and get away with it. Here you can't hustle because your conscience won't let you. Or somebody all around you will tell on you. Am I talking to anybody? Right? Over there you don't have to pay your taxes. You can just do what you want. Over here, God, I got a conscience now. Got to do things right. Am I talking to anybody today? There we sat around pots filled with meat. We had our bellies full. We ate all the bread we wanted. But now, you have brought us into the wilderness to starve all of us to death. Now look at this. They were in slavery, in bondage. And it was easier for them to be there than it is here. What happened was they came out of Egypt, but their mind still was in Egypt. Then the Lord said to Moses, look, I'm going to rain down food from heaven for you. Each day the people can go out and pick up as much food as they need for that day. I will test them in this to see whether or not they will follow my instructions. On the 6th day they will gather food, and when they prepare it, they'll eat twice as much as usual. So Moses and Aaron said to all the people, by evening you will realize it was the Lord who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. In the morning you will see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your complaints, which are against him, not against us. You're complaining about us, but you're really talking about him. What have we done that you should complain about us? Then Moses added, the Lord will give you meat to eat in the evening and bread to satisfy you in the morning, for he has heard all your complaints against him. What have we done? Yes, your complaints are against the Lord. They're not against us. Now here's what happened. God's going to begin to teach them. The only way a person can learn, that I've learned, and I think it's scriptural, when they come out of a situation of bondage, is to teach them one day at a time. They have to learn to live daily before they can ever learn to live monthly or annually. They have to learn to live daily. If you can't manage your day, you will not manage your week. Amen. Okay? And the Lord did it this way, morning and evening. So he let them give two and you have to manage your morning and you manage your evening. Because the Lord's saying, here's the deal. They got so caught up in over there, they went 430 years in Egypt. It's been 1 month, and they're already murmuring and complaining because it's so easy for them to go back. Now you know why the Lord didn't take them the direction of the easiest route. Because if it was the shortest route to get to the promised land, the first time they ran into this, or they would have fought and got into the promised land quicker than their capacity of their mind would allow them to stay. Because if you don't think like a king, you can't be in a king's land. Amen. You think like a slave, and you inherit the kingdom or the blessings of the Lord, you will squander it like that. Give a guy or a lady, give them $100,000 that can't manage 5, it's gone. And I'll tell you how you can tell. The most money that's wasted in a life, in a week, is not when you don't have any money. It's when you get your paycheck. If everybody got $500 in here today, your temptation to squander and spend foolishly would be when you have money, when you first get it, than it is when you don't have it. If you get down to $10, you're going to watch every penny you got. Because you know it's going to last you. But you will waste more money when you get your check. More people in America spend foolishly or waste within the first 48 hours of getting their paycheck than they do the last part of the week or the last part of the month, depending on how they get paid. Because they have saved and they've held all week or all month, and finally they get a little bit of breath and they want to enjoy it. And it becomes sometimes a wasteful, and then they kick themselves in the butt the rest of the time wishing they hadn't done that. Am I talking to anybody in here today? Okay. Well, so the Lord says, I'm going to teach you daily, day by day. If I give you a whole week's supply, you're in trouble. He said, but I'm going to tell you what I want to do. Because of what I'm about ready to show you, you're going to have to learn to manage the last 2 days of the week. I'm going to give you 6. I'll give you 5. On the 6th day, it's going to help you to take care of the 7th. So I'm going to double it on the 6th to see how good you do the first 5 days. And if you don't do well, you'll starve because there's nothing coming on the Sabbath, nothing on Sunday coming down. And how many of you know have been there that you got paid Friday, you're broke, and you're waiting until that next paycheck? And how many people truly know how to manage if you didn't get paid every day? You got to learn daily. It's your daily bread. It's also learning to teach you how to hear his voice and live where you're living from him day to day, where you don't get anxious for things in the future. If you're concerned what's next week's coming, you'll sometimes forget what this week is about. He don't want you anxious for, he wants you anxious for nothing. Right? I'm preaching good whether you like it or not. The Lord will give you meat to eat in the evening and bread to eat and satisfy you in the morning, for he has heard all your complaints against him. What have we done? Yes, your complaints are against the Lord. You're not murmuring against us, Moses said, Aaron. You're murmuring to God. Then Moses said to Aaron, announce this to the entire community of Israel. Moses kind of had it hard. Think about it. He says, Aaron, you tell him. Announce this to the entire community of Israel. Present yourselves before the Lord, for he has heard your complaining. You big mouth, loud mouth, complaining. That's my version. You baby-fied, spoiled. Who do you think you are? He said it in a different way. And then as Aaron spoke to the whole community of Israel, they looked out toward the wilderness. There they could see this awesome glory of the Lord in the cloud. Then the Lord said to Moses, I have heard the Israelites' complaints. Now tell them in the evening you will have meat to eat, and in the morning you will have bread they want. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God. That evening, vast numbers of quail flew in and covered the camp. And the next morning, the area around the camp was wet with dew. When the dew evaporated, a flaky substance as fine as the frost blanketed the ground. The Israelites were puzzled when they saw it. What is this, they asked. They had no idea what it was, and Moses told them, it's the food the Lord has given you to eat. In King James, it says manna. In other words, the word manna means, what is it? What is it? These are the Lord's instructions. Each household should gather as much as it needs. Pick up 2 quarts for each person in your tent. So the people of Israel did as they were told. Some gathered lots, some gathered little. But when they measured it out, everyone had just enough. Those who gathered a lot had nothing left over, and those who gathered only a little had enough. Each family had just what they needed. Then Moses told them, do not keep any of it until morning. Listen, you're not going to worry about tomorrow. You're going to take one day at a time. But some of them didn't listen, kept some of it until the morning. But by then it was full of maggots, and they had a terrible smell. Moses was mad at them. After this, the people gathered the food morning by morning, because he's teaching them, you're going to live day by day. You're going to learn to live, to manage your day. If you think you're going to hold it up for tomorrow, it's not going to be there. That stingy attitude won't work. Each family according to his need. And as the sun became hot, the flakes that they hadn't picked up melted and disappeared. On the sixth day, they gathered twice as much as usual, for 4 quarts for each person instead of 2. Then all the leaders of the community came and asked Moses for an explanation. What's this? He told them, this is what the Lord said, or commanded. Tomorrow will be a day of complete rest, a holy Sabbath day. It's set apart. Who's it for? The Lord. Sabbath was for the Lord. So bake or boil as much as you want today and set it aside, and what is left will be for tomorrow. In other words, this is not going to have maggots in the morning, but you better get enough today to last you till tomorrow, because tomorrow you're not going out picking up food. So they put some aside until the morning, just as Moses commanded, and in the morning the leftover food was wholesome and good, without maggots or even an odor. Moses said, eat this food today, for today is the Sabbath day, dedicated to the Lord. There will be no food on the ground today. You may gather the food for 6 days, but on the 7th is the Sabbath. There will be no food on the ground that day. Some of the people went out anyway on the 7th day looking for it, but they couldn't find any food. The Lord asked Moses, how long will these people refuse to obey my commands and instructions? They must realize that the Sabbath is the Lord's gift to you. Look at this. The word Sabbath is rest, is the Lord's gift to you. That is why he gives you a 2-day supply on the 6th, so there will be enough for 2 days. On the Sabbath day, you must each stay in your place. Do not go out and pick up food on the 7th day. So the people did not gather any food on the 7th day. The Israelites called the food manna. It was white like coriander seed, and it tasted like honey. Then Moses said, this is what the Lord has commanded. Fill a 2-quart container with manna to preserve it for your descendants. Then later generations will be able to see the food I gave you in the wilderness when I set you free from Egypt. Here's what he said. I want you to take a piece of this. I want you to put it in a container, because we're going to carry this thing around, and it's going to be a reminder of what happened, that the Lord brought you food every day. Moses said to Aaron, get a jar and fill it with 2 quarts of manna, then put it in a sacred place, separate it, before the Lord to preserve it for all future generations. So he had a jar of manna. Aaron did just as the Lord had commanded Moses. He eventually placed it in the Ark of the Covenant. Watch this. In front of the 2 table stones inscribed with the terms of the covenant. Wait a minute. The Ark of the Covenant and the 2 tables of stones, we haven't even seen that yet. Right? We haven't even gotten those plans yet. We're just now 1 month into this journey. Okay? So the people of Israel ate manna for 40 years until they arrived at the land where they would settle. They ate manna until they came to the border of the land of Canaan. What's he saying? He's jumping ahead and giving us a picture. It's almost like a preview of what we're going to see at the end of this story 40 years from now. We're 1 month into the journey, and you get a little snapshot from Moses going, here's what this is going to look like. This is all going to make sense here in a minute. That's what he's saying. He said, these people ate all of this for 40 years. They did this daily life. Okay? Next verse. The container used to measure the manna was an omer, which was 1/10 of an ephah. It held about 2 quarts. And the Lord's command, the whole community of Israel left the wilderness of Sin, which was, remember, between the palm trees place and the mountain of God, and they moved from place to place. Eventually they camped at Rephidim, but there was no water there for the people to drink. Here we are again. So once more the people complained against Moses. We got manna, we got quail, and now we have no water. Give us water to drink. Now look at this. They demanded. Quiet, Moses replied. Now he's mad. Why are you complaining against me? Why are you testing the Lord? But tormented by thirst, they continued to argue with Moses. Why did you bring us out of Egypt? Here we still are. Now I want you to think about this. The Red Sea crossed. They saw the cloud. Manna come from heaven. Quail entered the evening. They got water the first time, right? When they found 12 springs, when Moses threw the tree in the water and the bitter water became sweet. They've seen these hands of God working, and the first time again, they run up against their needs not getting met. They're thirsty, and look what happens. They're turning on Moses again. But tormented by thirst, they continue to argue with Moses. Why did you bring us out of Egypt? See, they're always wanting to go back that place. See, that was so much inside their mind that they only knew how to think like they weren't in Egypt anymore. Pharaoh was dead. They weren't in Egypt physically, but they still thought like they did under Pharaoh's leadership. Am I talking to anybody? You get saved. You come out of the world, the enemy is defeated, you scream and shout it that you can't thank God for what he's done in your life, but the first time you run into some problems, you start comparing the way it used to be to where it is now, because right now is uncomfortable. If you stop right now, you're better off going back. Well, I won't hear preachers say that often. Why? Because this is tough. This is tough. Anytime you're in transition of life, it's easy to compare where you left because you have no frame of reference of where you're going. But the dream has to be greater, and the desire for the dream fulfilled has to be greater than your current transition or the place you left. The minute where you came from has greater value than your destination. You're done. Right?
Amen. Good preaching.
Yes, it does. But tormented by thirst, they start complaining. Listen to this. Why did you bring us out of Egypt? Here you go. Are you trying to kill us, our children, and our livestock with thirst? Then Moses cried out to the Lord, what should I do to the people? They're ready to stone me. Moses really is saying this. I'm ready to kill every one of them. I am ready to take them out. I've had all I can take with them. They're ungrateful. They're selfish. They're self-centered. It's all about them. It's all about what I can get, what I can do. What now, and they're justifying their complaint because they're seeing their kids hungry and they're seeing their kids thirsty. They're seeing their livestock thirsty. And common sense looks like, hey, that's the right place. And if I'm Moses, I'm going, get yourself up, pick your kids up, and head back to Pharaoh. The problem is there's no Pharaoh over there now. The problem is that Egyptian system has been thrown away because Pharaoh died in a plague. You can't go back. That Red Sea closed. You can try, but you ain't going to get there because you'll never be satisfied because you've already had enough taste of where you come from. See, that's the problem. We get in the middle of our transition of life and we go, oh, God, I can't bear this much more because we're looking for the hand of the Lord and we're not seeing it sometimes. And we're looking back going, man, it'd be easier just to go back. The problem is you can't go back. Because even if you did go back, it won't be the same as it was when you left.
Amen. Amen. Praise God.
You've already left it.
Thank you, Lord.
You departed. And here's the problem. If you had never had come out, you would have a frame of reference. But now you have just enough taste of God that if you did go back, you'd be distasteful over there. Because you had too much taste of manna coming from heaven. Let's keep going. I got 15 minutes. The Lord said to Moses, walk out in front of the people. Oh, here we go. Here we go. There's 3 phases, and I've heard this preached before. Another guy preached this, and I grabbed a hold of it. It was powerful. Moses went 3 phases in leadership. He was with the people. He had to get out in front of the people, and then he had to go up from the people. Okay? When he was with the people, they started chiding him. Now God says, they're chiding you, Moses. They're complaining about you. You're going to have to get out in front of them. It's okay to be with them, but if they ever become with them, you're going to become common with them. Get out in front of the people. They got to have something to see. Get out and walk out in front of the people. Lead them. Just don't give them what they want, because then you'll just be another government. You'll just be another handout. Get out in front of them. Show them something. What's this? So Moses, walk out in front. Get out in front of the people. And take your anointing with you. The one you used when you struck the water of the Nile. In other words, I'm going to remind you, Moses, it was the thing that I used that was your staff that later became my staff. When you struck the water of the Nile, and it came to elders of the Israel to join you, and I will stand before you on the rock at Mount Sinai. Watch this. You're going to strike the rock, and water will come gushing out. Then the people will be able to drink. Watch this. This is a picture of Jesus on the cross. Who's the rock? Christ. On this solid rock I stand. All other ground is sinking sand. This is the rock. Moses, the prophet, has the staff. He strikes the rock on the cross. Out of the rock, Christ, come the water. Remember? Yes. Water and blood come out of the cross, out of the side of Christ. The water will come out, gushing out. Then the people will be able to drink. So Moses struck the Christ, the rock, as he was told, and water gushed out as the elders looked on also. Watch this. Moses named the place Massah, which means test, and Meribah, I guess, which means arguing, because the people of Israel argued with Moses and tested the Lord by saying, is the Lord here with us or not? Man, I know this is a story in the Bible, but I'm telling you, everybody I know is living this way. Everybody I know is in transition in some sort of life, part of life, and they're not where they used to be, but they're not where they're going to be. And in the middle of this thing, your questions you ask yourself is, God, it was easier back then. Why did I embark on this thing? Why did I start out on this journey? And God, are you even here? Where are you? You gave me those kids. Now I've got them and I've raised them. It was easier when they were 15 and 14 because at least I had control of them. Now they're adults and I don't even know what to do with them because they're not listening to me. You might know what I'm talking about. And you're going, Lord, where are you in this? He's in the process too. While the people of Israel were still at Rephidim, the warriors of Amalek, here's the most beautiful part of the story. Remember what I told you. The Lord will teach you to learn to live day by day, where you can trust him with the day. If the next phase of the journey of transition is the attacks, he will allow the enemy to attack you. This is not going to sound good, but he's going to allow the enemy to attack you to show his goodness for you. Not to take you out, but so you'll see your mindset different. So you're not looking at it, you're going, my God, this is crazy. All of a sudden, I feel God doing something. But God, where are you? Next thing you know, you're going, how in the world? Where did that come from? I feel like I'm being attacked from all sides. Well, you are. Right. And why are you being attacked? Because he's trying to get something out of you that you can't take into the next season with you. So transition will be full of trusting God daily. Transition will be full of, enemies all around you. And they will initiate attacks on you to get your mindset to a place where you learn to think like a king. So when you finally do get to the place of the promised land or that destination that God has for you, you won't murmur and complain like you did back here when you felt entitled and everybody owed you something. You go from a slave to an owner. And the only way to go from a slave to an owner is through transition. And to go from slavery to ownership through transition, you have to learn to trust God day by day. And you have to understand how to fight the good fight of faith. I'll just take up an offering. No, I'm just kidding. I just heard somebody say that the other day. I'll take up an offering on that one. While the people, Moses commanded Joshua. Whoa, wait a minute. Joshua, where did this guy come from? Now he's on the scene. So Moses commanded Joshua, choose some men to go out and fight the army of Amalek for us. Tomorrow I will stand at the top of the hill holding the staff of God in my hand. Now, if I'm Joshua, and Moses comes to me, and he says, I'm going to go stand up on this hill, and I'm going to hold the staff of God. I need you to get some people to go out and fight. If I'm Joshua, I'm saying, get you on some people some fight. I'll go up and stand on the hill. Give me your staff. I'll go up there and stand on the hill. I'm not here just fighting you, going through this. But Joshua didn't. He recognized the authority that God had on Moses' life. So look what happens. So Joshua did exactly what Moses had commanded. He fought the army of Amalek. Meanwhile, Moses, Aaron, and here's another guy, climbed to the top of a nearby hill. As long as Moses held up the staff in his hand, the Israelites had the advantage. But whenever he dropped his hand, the Amalekites gained the advantage. As long as Moses was interceding, and he was surrounded by people that were interceding and connected to heaven, they were advancing. In other words, you're not going to do this in the flesh. Even though Joshua had some pretty powerful men, you're not going to win this thing in the battle of the flesh. If you're not connected to heaven, and you're not interceding and having somebody intercede on your behalf, you're not going to win this thing. You're going to get tired. As Moses got tired, his arms, we'll see it, his arms started coming down because he was getting tired of standing in the gap. And God surrounded him with Aaron and Hur that held his hands up. As long as he was pointed towards heaven, interceding, the advance was for the gain of Israel. When he got weak, the advance was the other direction. He started losing. Now, today, our intercessor is not Moses.
Amen.
Our intercessor is Jesus, that forever lives to make intercession for you and me. So he can't lose. So even though it looks like we might be retreating some, we're actually advancing. Even in your retreat, or looks like you're not advancing, even in your loss, it has to be a victory, because he's forever living. He's not like Moses, where Moses is getting tired. Making sense? Verse 12. Moses' arms soon became so tired he could no longer hold them up. Well, thank God Jesus' arms aren't tired. So Aaron and Hur found a stone for him to sit on. Wait a minute. They found a stone. He sit down. The stone. The chief cornerstone is who? Christ is the stone that the builders rejected. So as long as Moses was seated on Christ, they stood on each side of Moses holding up his hands, so his hands held steady until sunset. As a result, Joshua overwhelmed the army of Amalek in battle. After the victory, the Lord instructed Moses, write this down on a scroll as a permanent reminder and read it out loud to Joshua. Wow, this is so powerful. I will erase the memory of Amalek from under heaven. Moses built an altar there and named it Yahweh Nisi, Jehovah Nisi. It's where we sing the Pentecostal song, which is the Lord is my banner, okay? Jehovah Nisi. He said they have raised their fist against the Lord's throne, so now the Lord will be at war with Amalek generation after generation. Moses' father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian, heard about everything God had done for Moses and his people, the Israelites. He heard especially about how the Lord had rescued them from Egypt. So news starts traveling now about how good God's to them, that he's with them. Earlier, Moses had sent his wife Zipporah and his two sons back to Jethro, who had taken them in. Moses' first son was named Gershom, for Moses had said when the boy was born, I have been a foreigner in a foreign land. Second son was Eliezer, for as Moses said, the God of my ancestors was my helper. He rescued me from the sword of Pharaoh. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, now come to visit Moses in the wilderness. He brought Moses, his wife, and two children with him. And they arrived while Moses and the people were camped near the mountain of God. Jethro had sent a message to Moses saying, I, Jethro, your father-in-law, am coming to see you with your wife and two kids. So Moses went out to meet his father-in-law and bowed down low and kissed him. And they asked about how each other's welfare were, how you doing, and went into Moses' tent. Moses told his father-in-law everything the Lord had done to Pharaoh and Egypt on behalf of Israel. He also told about all the hardships that they had experienced along the way and how the Lord had rescued him from the people and his people out of all the troubles. Jethro was delighted when he heard about all the good things the Lord had done for Israel as he rescued them from the hand of the Egyptians. Watch this. Praise the Lord, Jethro said, for he has rescued you from the Egyptians and from Pharaoh. Yes, he has rescued Israel from the powerful hand of Egypt. I know now that the Lord is greater than all the other gods because he has rescued his people from the oppression of the proud Egyptians. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and sacrifices to God. Aaron and all the elders of Israel came out and joined him in a sacrificial meal in God's presence. The next day, Moses took his seat to hear the people's disputes. against each other. They waited before him from morning until evening. Moses was now leading these millions of people, and they're all journeying, and you already know the mindset they have. They're complaining because they didn't have food. They're complaining because they didn't have water. They're complaining. Can you imagine them trying to live together in an area when there's war going on around them? They're not happy. They wanted to go back, and they're fighting amongst each other. And Moses had to come out and hear their disputes. He had to judge this thing. So this family against this family, this guy against this guy, this woman against this woman, whatever it might have been, this kid against this kid, they would bring all the issues to Moses, and Moses would have to discern and judge them. Can you imagine how that would wear on him over all this time? Daylight to dark, you know Moses is just hearing disputes. You know how we are today. You get a church of 500 or 1,000, I can't imagine having one of a couple billion. Moses, kill every last one of them, Lord. The next day, Moses took his seat to hear the people's disputes against each other. They waited before him. It was all day long. When Moses' father-in-law saw that Moses was doing for the people, because Moses' heart was for the people. He was a man of justice. He asked, what are you really accomplishing here? Why are you trying to do all this alone while everyone stands around you from morning to evening? Moses, you're killing yourself, and all these people are letting you kill yourself. They're watching you. They just stand there and let you do it. They're cheering you on. Moses, this is a reality show. You're Judge Moses. And people are tuning in to watch you every Monday through Friday at 4 o'clock on ABC. In other words, Moses, you're the guy. Why are you doing this? You can't do this by yourself. These people are just letting you kill yourself. What's this? Moses replied, because the people come to me to get a ruling from God. When a dispute arises, they come to me, and I'm the one who settles the case between the quarreling parties. I inform the people of God's decrees and give them his instructions. Jethro, this isn't good, Moses. You're out of control. You're going to wear yourself out, and the people too. This job is too heavy, a burden for you to handle all by yourself. The problem with this is sometimes that feeds into an ego of a leader. Amen. It becomes a codependence issue. I need you to come bring me your dispute so I can settle your dispute to give me worth. You get worth by coming to me. I get worth by you coming to me. So we have a codependency, right? I don't have to work out my disputes myself. I'll just take it to the man. You know those kind of people that every time you turn around, they're going to the law? I hear this all the time. They just called the law. What? You just called the law? Why? Because that's what you do. You call the law. Am I okay? Amen. It's 10:30 and I'm about to close on this one. You just call the law. Why? Because that's your first. You've got the law on your speed dial. Call the law. Why don't you, can't you figure that out yourself? Husband and ex-wife or ex-husband and a wife. Call it how you want. If you're constantly calling the law and the court system knows more about your situation than the two of you, you're immature. Oh, you're immature, hard-hearted, and childish. Yes. That's the truth. Call the law. Call the law. Call the law. Call the law. Why? Because you need someone to judge your dispute. Because you ain't man enough and woman enough to do it yourself. Now, I'm not saying there's not time to call the law. I'm just saying if that's your first response to everything, grow up. I'll take you back to court. Really? Is that your avenue on everything? You want me to keep going or you want me to stop? I'm just being honest with you. Moses was the law. And these people ran to Moses with everything. Somewhere along the line, you got to grow up and be able to handle your own disputes. Am I right, Barry? I didn't mean to alienate everybody today at 10:30. But I'm just telling you, we got to prepare a people that know how to rule and not be ruled. to reign and not have to be reigned over. How to be a king and not be a peasant. It's going to be good at 11. I promise you. I'm going to get you to the place where you're going to get so mad that you're going to leave and let the Lord teach you out there. Let the world be your teacher. Life be your teacher. Or you're going to get this and go, I'm going to conquer this thing. And I'm going to learn how to rule and reign. Either way is fine with me because you're going to get there. It's easier to go through this direction because you get instruction along the journey. Out there, you have to figure out your journey while they're being instructed. Here we go. Father, in Jesus' name, bless them. Amen. See you in a bit.